So when you see a female going into a bar with her tits and her ass hanging out, and then saying that she doesn't want to be looked at, or she's not looking for attention, you'll know what it is. I mean, there's even studies that show that when a female is at her height of menstruation, when she's at her most fertile, she usually wears more skimpy outfits when she goes out, and she doesn't know why. She doesn't rationally decide this. This happens on a very intrinsic, basic, natural, subconscious level, and this is the only level she understands. That's why when you tell a woman that she's disloyal, she doesn't understand. For her, falling into and out of love is just something she does. She doesn't rationalize it. Even this that I'm saying is something perplexing to her, something confusing. She doesn't get it. For her, it's all emotion. She wants to keep it there, where she understands it. It's all feeling. She wants to feel things, sense it. She wants to abandon herself to her nature. Whereas men want to understand nature, and through this understanding want to control nature, especially nature within themselves. For a woman, that's not the case. They want to give in to this Dionysian ecstasy. They want to become frenzied, intoxicated by hormones, by intuition, by instinct, and give into it, experience it fully. Whereas men want to control it, want to dominate it, want to understand it. This is where the conflict between men and women comes from. And this is why men will always become a very important aspect of humanity, whereas women will always remain what they always were, a means to an end. A very valuable means to an end, but still a means to an end and nothing more. Taking them seriously, raising them on a pedestal, worshipping them, is really unproductive. In fact, women will tell you that, because they don't know any better, that they disrespect male men that show them too much reverence. For them, any man who shows them more interest than they think they're worth is at first confusing, then they begin thinking of him as inferior to them. And that's a death blow to sexual attraction, because a woman always wants to always feel that she's being taken by something superior to her. So when a male shows reverence towards her, she feels that she's superior to this male, and this may inspire her to manipulate this man, this entity, but she will not feel sexually attracted to him. This is why women are always sexually attracted to the alpha male, because the alpha male doesn't give a shit about them. He uses them as what they are and what they should be, and what they feel that they should be, and they know that they should be, as a means to an end, as sexual objects. Their own competition is with other females, which they compete with to attract the best males. This is the only thing that matters to them. This is why men that have girlfriends are more attractive to a female than men that don't have girlfriends. For them, it's about usurping the other's sexual promise with their own. They want to dominate other females by replacing their sexual promise with that of another female. That's their only interest. That's their only competition, competitiveness. They have no other sense of growth. They have no other inspiration. Everything comes and goes through their sexual appeal. How they are perceived by others, and how they are valued by others, and how particular males judge them on a sexual level, not on an intellectual level. They don't give a shit if they're considered stupid, because that's not where their power lies. Their power lies in having a nice ass and nice tits, and they're content there. And so, because of all these factors, we live in a distinctly feminine age, an age of emasculation, particularly in the West. And we see this war against the other cultures, Islam in particular, currently, as this war against a masculine entity. And we see in the control of those females a threat to the Western quote-unquote ideal, which is a slavish ideal, because the European man has lost his masculinity. He's been affected by this disease of slavishness, as Rome was infected by Christianity. And the goal here is uniformity. A uniform population is a more controllable population. And the more you create uniformity, the more you can manipulate the masses. Look at marketing, look at politics. Particularly in the United States, the most sophisticated form of uniformity in our time. Look how easily these masses are controlled by some very simplistic and base conceptions and methods and strategies. There's 2 parties there, whereas in other nations there are 10, 20, 30 parties. I know in Greece there's 15 parties in a population of 10 million, whereas in the United States, in a population of 350 million, we have how many parties? 2? 3? That's it. We can say 3 with Ralph Nader, but that's about it. Before it was Perot, but he soon disappeared. And you can see that in marketing. I mean, they manipulate the masses using the same sexual ploys, making certain brands seductive, using Bernays methods based upon Freud's insights to sell certain products, to make these products sexy, to manipulate sexuality and human need, the need to belong, the need to safety, to sell products. And the United States has become the peak of mass manipulation, and it wants to spread itself across the globe, which is called, you can call it Americanization, but it's mostly called globalization, just to make it seem less colonial. So it's a culture of no culture. What is this culture? It means you level everything down to nothing, to a paste, what they call the mixing pot, the mixing bowl. And once that is achieved, once you melt everything into a paste, then you can manipulate it. You can serve it up. You can sell it up. Once you reduce a mind to a nothing, you take away its heritage, its sexuality, its racial identity, then it's vulnerable to any identification. It actually craves to find identification. And then you give it something as simplistic as money or materials to feel substantial, because it feels so empty inside. And that's a way of mind control. If you look at the movies 1984, you'll see it in practice. In the movie The Matrix, this is represented in another way, as a form of being asleep, of being in a womb, this artificial womb, where the few are awakened by. But notice that the few that are awakened by enter this new realm called Zion, which reminds us of Zionism, another propaganda tool. To create the state of parity, this illusion of parity, what you do is you set up these rules where you make certain behaviors, you make some behaviors seem evil. For instance, the Pavlovian response to just the term Hitler or Nazi or violence or prejudice or discrimination is an indication of mind control. That is, the person who experiences the sensation doesn't even know what the issues are at stake. It just feels a certain negative reaction to the simple word of it, the simple articulation of the word. He doesn't know what the concepts behind it are, what what was in play, what happened. It just has a visceral, instinctive reaction to it, which is imbued in it from birth. It is trained in it on a psychological subconscious level, and it cannot help but react in this way. This is how medics assert genetics. So anything associated with masculinity is automatically considered evil. Violence, even intelligence. Now we're living in an age where being intelligent is almost an insult. People will call you Poindexter, nerdy, a geek, a loser, whatever. The only way intelligence has any value today is when it's specialized, that it's focused on a medium, on a discipline which earns money. It always has to do with money. That's the only value system the modern man knows. Intelligence per se, that is knowledge, awareness, is considered a negative. Stupidity is raised to the height. The stupider you are, the better. You're more fun. You're more flamboyant. You're more exciting. To be stupid is to be modern. No less than to be feminine is to be modern. The metrosexuality of today is almost taken for granted. That is, a man exfoliating or taking care of his skin or taking care of his hair or exhibiting some feminine traits is almost expected. It's taken for granted as part of being a male, where this was never the case in the past. The lines between female and male are being blurred. Now men have to defer to female judgment, on his performance, on his appearance, on his behavior, on his social status. And since females are always the filtering device of the system, the mimetic filtering device, then she becomes the judge and the jury by which a man is then judging himself by. So there's a drive, this reaction, which you see in the MRAs, is really a natural reaction to this, a resistance to it. Although even these males don't know what it is. They understand that it's all part of the general nihilistic tendency of Judeo-Christianity, and its roots are found in Judaism, and even before that in the same principles that infected the East, Hinduism and Buddhism, where the individual is eliminated, is made to feel like it's dispensable and insignificant, and that it should submit and be silent and be tolerant and invert itself upon itself. And it came to the West because of population pressures. That means Judaism was just a vehicle. I mean, these principles existed way before Rome and way before Judaism, but during that time, the ground was fertile. That is, Rome had reached the peak of strength. Population pressures had begun to take effect. The hierarchies were decadent. They were enjoying the fruits of their dominance. And that means they were becoming weak. And so they were easily infected by this ideology, which morphed with its contact with the Greeks, with Platonism in specific, and became Christianity. And from there, it morphed again into secular humanism, into liberalism, Marxism. It's the same principle, it's the same way of thinking, it's the same morality, just morphing to meet the changing circumstances. Like a virus adapts to environmental changes, so to this virus it's adapting. Whereas the original, the superorganism of Western man, of pagan man, as it was represented by Rome and Athens, and even by the Germanic tribes, is being killed off. And this was partially what World War II was all about. It was the final death throes of that superorganism. But again, this is another issue, a much more controversial issue.